Grand risings to everybody. Grand risings to everyone who's just trying to hit me while I'm in the NFAC. Well, we can't do that right now. Too early in the morning for all that. Grand risings, everybody. I see you too. Grand risings to everybody who's tuned in. Y'all know I'm on my morning mental this morning. I don't even know why you tuned in if you're not ready for something to put on your mind, just to give you something to think about as you go through the day. The sun is rising, but it's a whole day ahead of you. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. You know, they say that there's three most important days in your life. The day you're born, the day you figure out why, and the day you die. The crazy part about it is the last two, you don't know when they're going to hit. They might hit on the same day. You might figure out the reason you're here and the reason, and then you die at the same time. That'd be kind of jacked up. The whole idea is to figure out why you are supposed to be here, what your purpose is, why you were put in this room. Figure it out before the time's up. Accomplish something with all the tools you've been given, and then exit gracefully. Grand rising to all of you. Grand rising. You made it back again. You see, most of y'all don't realize this, but on the morning mental, here's something to think about. We taught on this before, so I like rehashing things for the new folks that have showed up. But before we get started, let me welcome everybody. The most censored, blocked, and interrupted live stream on Instagram, the morning mental and facts over feelings, which is when we really get it in and stir up the dust at night. But don't worry, those days are numbered. This morning, a couple of things. First, I want to lift up some people real quick. You know, most of the time, people always think that when you lift somebody up, that you are trying to gain something. You know, sometimes you just want to lift up good people. So before I dive into the morning mental, let me lift up a few people. And since y'all like to take sound bites out of my videos so that y'all can get some popularity and followers, take this one. First person I want to lift up is General Babu. If you don't know who General Babu is, he is the commander of the Huey Newton Gun Club out of Texas. I want to lift up Babu this morning. I want to speak positiveness over Babu and his organization, because there are a lot of people out there who think that as long as we can keep people fighting amongst themselves, they can never get together to fight us. So I'd like to lift that brother and his organization up wherever they are scattered across the United States and all of their allies. I want to lift them up because they're out here on the front lines doing what needs to be done. We all might not do it the same, but we're still doing it. I want to lift up General Taco. Y'all know General Taco. General Taco is the commander of the Dark Riders. If you don't know who the Dark Riders are, you need to do some research. I want to lift up General Taco. General Taco is not only an excellent leader, but an incredible mediator of peace treaties and ceasefires between gangs inside and outside the walls. Also, I want to lift up my man Talib. Talib is the commander of the Fred Hampton Gun Club out of Washington, D.C. and the DMV, all down through Virginia and all up through Maryland. I want to salute that brother because he goes out. Matter of fact, Talib went out last week. Matter of fact, I think it was a week before last, where they went down to Fairfax to protest a situation that happened with a sister. And they didn't bother them brothers while they was open carrying. They waited till it was over, and then they grabbed my man Talib and put him in the penalty box for a couple of days. He soldiered on, came home, and got right back to the business. I salute that brother. I want to lift him up this morning. You know, I want to lift up Bobby Worthy. Bobby Worthy in the Justice League. I got to lift up Bobby OG, triple OG in the game. Has no problem sharing the wisdom and the connections that he has. So I have to lift up Bobby Worthy this morning. I got to. I have no choice but to lift him up. I have to lift up the new Black Panther Party. I have to lift them up. The reason being is because if we don't hold each other up, then one leg on the table and the whole table can collapse, or at least we will be looking real funny. I want to salute all of these organizations and their commanders and all of their sub-commanders and secretaries in the field. I want to salute them on behalf of myself personally and on behalf of the Not Fucking Around Coalition. I want to salute them because of the simple fact that there are those who believe that if we just play by the same old rules, these people will fall for the same old tricks time and time again. That's not happening. There is a sense of unity that is beginning to float throughout the community, and the only people that don't want to be left out is you and me. So I wanted to say that before the day starts. Let that spread around while we're in the business of spreading all of this good information, disinformation. You know, sometimes you got to go to see the mystery. Grand rising to all of the children of the Most High. Grand rising to all of the elect. Grand risings to all of the chosen. Grand rising to those of you all who are trying to do your best under the circumstances, trying to be the best person you can under the circumstances. You see, under the circumstances prefaces a lot of our situations as melanated people on this planet. How are you doing today, sir? I'm doing great under the circumstances. During Jim Crow, they used to ask us, how are you doing today? I'm doing all right under these circumstances. You know, I'm pretty sure nobody went out to the slave field and said, how y'all doing out here? You're doing great under the circumstances. You see, under the circumstances puts conditions on whether or not you are built to exist within them. In the season that we live in today, post-quarantine, it is very, very, very evident that a lot of you all are doing okay under the circumstances. But the circumstances themselves need to be addressed. Yes, they do. They need to be addressed. I want to also, believe it or not, this is going to sound kind of strange, but I have to actually lift up. This is going to sound crazy. Everybody hold on to your seats. Don't everybody fly off the end. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. I have to lift up the legislature and the leadership. This is going to sound crazy, but I have to give it out. I have to lift up the leadership in Louisville, Kentucky, and the Attorney General's office and the FBI. I know that's going to sound crazy, but here's why. Because every day since the NFAC visited Louisville, they have come out with some type of an announcement almost every day telling us exactly what's going on, whether it be good news or bad news. Have y'all noticed that? No one has noticed that. First announcement was that they're not going to give up the records on Breonna Taylor's killing because that would compromise the investigation. Within 4 hours, they changed their mind and released those records to the family because of a civil lawsuit. Then right after that, they then turned around and said that they were doing all these other things where they were cooperating with these folks and going back and trying to build this. Every day it's been something. They're giving us what we asked for. They're giving us the transparency. And a lot of y'all who get caught up in all of this side mess have not realized that the purpose and the goal of the NFAC going into Louisville was not to shoot up the joint like the Wild Wild West. This is not cable. It was to go in, spark a conversation that would result in transparency. And now they're giving it to us. They're giving us the transparency. So I don't know. I don't want to hear from people who don't understand a process when you're trying to get to the heart of the matter to find out what the problem truly was. We went from thinking that they were totally ignoring us to now we can sit around and be critical of the information that they're giving us. And it has still not continued. I mean, still has not stopped as of yesterday. Another announcement from the AG's office that now he's waiting on ballistics evidence and ballistics results from the FBI. Remember, the FBI is doing their own investigation too. That's why everybody's trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. This is like a grown folks version of musical chairs. And a lot of people are trying not to be stuck without a chair when the music stops, because this one right here is going to be bigger than just those cops involved. We're not saying they should get off the hook, but there was a few other people who did some questionable things, and the FBI is going down the rabbit hole to find out. But the point I'm making is, don't go in and ask for something and then you get it, and then you still turn around and be a critical ass when you didn't do anything, didn't put forth any effort to try to get those results. You see, that's our problem. A lot of y'all want to sit around and be judgmental, but you're ignorant to the process. A lot of y'all want to sit around and act like this is just pour in some instant water and some shit pop out the other end, but you aren't even educated enough to understand that it doesn't happen like that in the real world. Now, we're getting what we asked for. The first part, they are being transparent. I understand why they're doing it. I read an article yesterday that was in online where they were talking about all of these things they were doing, and I noticed in the article they made sure to mention the NFAC, that we had expressed our dissatisfaction with the pace that this was moving. Go look it up for yourself. I think it's on WDRB or RDB, whatever that newspaper is that's coming out of Louisville. They make sure that every time they talk about what progress has been made in this case, they make sure to mention and that the NFAC came in to get some answers and that they are waiting for something to happen. They have not forgotten that we were there, and they expect us to come back one way or the other. But I have to be honest, I'm not so bitter and I'm not so hate-filled in my heart that I will not give credit for the little bit of progress that they have given us. They are being transparent now. They are saying exactly what's going on. It might not be a good picture, but at least we got them telling us. And see, at first they were just in the back trying to get this shit done, and they thinking that y'all just gonna sit there and wait. And we got to the point we said, you're not gonna be back here making my Subway sandwich around the back, and I can't see it when you normally do it right out here in front of us. That's the whole idea. The point is, a lot of us are so quick to say what we want the end result to be that we are now failing to realize that we went down there, ripped off the scab so we could see how bad it was, and found out that it wasn't a scab at all, that it's a bullet hole. So now we have to get into that to find out, to get what we want. These convictions y'all keep crying about because y'all don't understand the process, or y'all don't realize what they've done, how fucked up this case was. Y'all don't realize how much they dropped the ball. This wasn't normal police work. This right here is makeup police work. And because of that, we're making them do the job. Now they're doing everything in front of us now because they know now it's not just the good old folks down there in Louisville that's watching. They got folks that come from all corners of the earth that's watching and is ready to come back and find out what's happening. So don't sit there and act like, oh, now all of a sudden, no, they wasn't telling y'all shit at first. Nothing. You got nothing out of the AG's office. You got nothing out of the mayor's office but a bunch of lies. You got nothing from the police department. You got nothing. The lawyers couldn't even get what they needed to try to put together a case. Now we done came down this motherfucker and we shook the tree and the fruit is falling off of there. But a lot of y'all still want the fruit to fall, get processed, get baked into a pie, wrapped up and presented to you because, like I said before, you fail to understand the process. So the only reason that I'm giving them, some asshole just asked me where my shades at. Pardon my language, why the fuck would I have shades on and I just woke up? I'm sorry. That's the kind of shit I gotta talk. Get out. Capture his name and block him forever for asking a dumbass question. So the bottom line was, y'all, that the NFAC went down there and we brought the appropriate pressure from the public. And now I have to say they're actually responding. They're responding. And they're giving us the transparency. And to be quite honest, if y'all haven't noticed, they have given us something every day. That means they're working at a very fast pace. Y'all don't see that. We do. We gotta have that moment. Y'all gotta stop. We gotta have this moment right now. Yeah, we gotta have this moment right now. All right, that one is for Bree. A little bit closer. Get a little closer. In the meantime and in between time, I want to talk about something a little different this morning because I'm always trying to open your eyes and get you on the path of enlightenment so that you can get where you really need to go. So, stay with me. We're going somewhere with this. Back in, I think it was 2018, 2018, I think. I'm not sure, either 2018 or 2017, one or the other. I went down, took a trip by myself down to Georgia. Yeah, for some reason, it's always something popping in Georgia. I went down to Georgia and found out where a certain thing was that I was looking for. I'd always read about it. I had studied it, but I had never really given it too much mind until things started to happen on this planet that made me think otherwise. And so I took a trip down to see this thing myself so that I could evaluate whether it was real. The same way, if you go back through my profile here, you'll find out that I took a trip to Denver International Airport because I wanted to see those paintings for myself. The ones that are on the wall when you first walk into the airport. And, I'm going to be honest with you. I went out there and I was thinking, man, they bugging. People just blowing stuff out of proportion. It's probably just some plain old paintings. And sidebar, in case you're wondering why I'm letting the sun shine directly in my face, it is because one of the things that you need in order to energize your pineal gland is direct sunlight. And the only way to get direct sunlight into your pineal gland is through the black iris of your eye. That is why. You don't stare directly at the sun. You let the sun hit you in your eyes. Also, it's good for your melanin and vitamin K. So don't sit here and wonder, why is he sitting in the sun? This room is designed perfectly so the sun rises and hits me dead in my face because my pineal gland is decalcified. It is fully functional. So that's why the sun is shining in my face. But anyway, flipping back over to what I was telling you before. So when I went down to see this thing that I want to see, is because I believe that you should see some things in person yourself, especially if you're trying to put the whole puzzle together. And I've done this when I went out to Denver. When I walked into the airport, I didn't believe that stuff. I didn't. I thought it was just something that people wrote about. Until I walked in and I looked over my shoulder and there was a gargoyle sitting in a suitcase. If y'all been there, y'all know what I'm talking about. There was a gargoyle, man, like this, checking shit out, watching you when you walked into the airport. And if you're about to get on a plane, I'm going, why y'all got this crazy ass looking gargoyle sitting up here? And I'm about to get on the plane. That's not the thought that I want to have in my head when I get into a jet. But it was real. I went further into the airport and I saw the paintings, the ones that cause all of the hubbub, the ones that show, the New World Order and the apocalypse and the people in the coffins and the crying, the dying baby and the Hitler soldier with the knife, all this crazy stuff right there in front of your face. I'm going like, wow, they're not even trying to hide it. And then I went deeper into the airport and I saw the Masonic cornerstone that's built the New World Order airport. And it's real. I took pictures. I couldn't believe it. And then I got nosy and I started snooping around because I wanted to see if I could find one of the secret entrances, and maybe I could sneak downstairs and see the base that's supposed to be under there. Maybe I might even have to run into one of the aliens that they claim is down there, and then we could kick it for a minute, and he could tell me what's really good. But I didn't get that far because there were guards that told me I just could not go on a certain level. So that was the end of that. But at least I went to see it for myself. And it was interesting. I do believe there is something under that airport. I don't know what, and I really don't care because it's probably something that would be fatal to my existence. However, and that's their business. If they want to deal with the Nephilim and the fallen angels and all of them, let them handle that craziness. We're not here for that. But there's another object that I wanted to go see. And I want to talk about it this morning because someone asked me to talk about it. And I said, it's interesting you asked me that because I've actually been there. There's this place down in Georgia called Elbert, Georgia. You don't know where it is. It's northeast of Atlanta. It's a good little ride. And when I went down to see this thing, if you've never heard of this, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. They're called the Georgia Guidestones. And a lot of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. The Georgia Guidestones are set up kind of like a Stonehenge of America, but it was built recently. But it's not so much how it's built, which is a story within itself, but it's what it says. It has writing on it in the 5 basic languages that you would need to rebuild this world. And it has certain guidelines on it. It has its own like 10 commandments on it. And when you stand there and you read it, it looks like good stuff. Like, okay, until you get to the part about maintain the population at 500 million. In balance with nature. They're going like 500 million. Bro, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Where everybody else at? So either A, this is something that is a guide for people who survive a cataclysm and that, there's not even that many people left. But when you start to grow your population, make sure you cap it off at 500 million. Or it means everybody's still here and 500 million is the ones that survive and you kill the rest. That's what's so scary about this thing. And everyone who's seen it says the same thing. Now, the Georgia Guidestones are made of the hardest granite in the world. And its base is sunk so deep into the bedrock of the earth that it could survive multiple cataclysms and still be standing. Not only that, it has holes drilled in it which actually make it into a clock. It turns also it can line up the solar equinox and so you can use it as a compass. You can use it as a clock. It has all of the basic languages on it. It has the rules for how to live. It has all of these things and it's damn near indestructible. And they put it in Georgia. I wonder why Georgia? Because that's where the hardest granite is found. The people who built it are a mystery. The person who came in and paid for it in advance with blueprints. They said it had to be astrophysicists, engineers, and a bunch of other smart people to design this thing. Someone is remarking about my countenance, that my face is aglow. No, this is melanin energized. So I wanted to go through those things that were on the stone and see how they relate to how we build a new nation. Isn't that interesting? To build a new nation and already have guidelines in effect so that it doesn't just grow wildly. But we can't do this, we can't do that. We're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. Sounds almost like a utopia, right? I don't think so. So the very first rule that they had was maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. I still wonder how they arrived at that conclusion. The second one was guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Guide reproduction wisely. In other words, no one reproduces on their own. Everything is guided. Bloodlines are controlled to increase diversity amongst the race, but to make sure that fitness, and these folks are fit and beautiful. You see what they're trying to do? They're trying to build their own utopian society, unite humanity with a living new language. How many of you all remember that at one time it says in the scriptures, we all spoke the same language, but in our speaking the same language, we united in one purpose. And when we united in that one purpose, we thought that we were above the creator. So we tried to build a tower unto heaven and so forth, which is another story. I think Zechariah Stitching would disagree that they didn't just build the tower. They were trying to rebuild a launch port. That's what he said. And that they were trying to rebuild the tower to the stars so that they could go back to where they say the Sumerians say we came from, those who came from the stars. That's what they said. I didn't say this. I'm just telling y'all what it says. But what they're saying here is that we bring back just one language. Can you imagine? Notice in the New World Order that you hear about is one government, one money, one religion, but never one language. What was the purpose of multiple languages according to the scriptures? According to the scriptures, the languages were confused to stop us from trying to achieve godhood. So if someone is going to unite you in your money, unite you in your government, and even unite you in your worship, but not unite you in your language, then they still have language serving the same purpose that it served before, which was to confound the people and confuse the people. That's what it says. You would be confused. So guess what? Even today, we still have language barriers that stop us all from getting on a global one accord. The interesting thing about that is you can't stop the spirit. The spirit is a universal language. The spirit of our ancestors is a universal language. You don't even have to speak it. It speaks to you. The spirit of our melanin is a universal language. You don't even have to speak it. It speaks to you. The language of our souls is a universal language. We can feel it in our soul. Some of you all know that when we're in these sessions, that you're not just listening to what I'm saying, that there is a tone that is addressing the melanin frequency inside of you. So it makes it easy for you to digest what I'm saying. Whereas other folks who don't have that frequency, they're like, it sounds like noise, it sounds like confusion. I don't get it. This guy's just talking. But to the rest of us who know that we need a stabilizer in our lives, who know that we need some confirmation that we ain't the only ones crazy around here. For someone who knows that I am not a misfit, I don't fit into this for a reason. And the reason that I don't fit into it is because I am in tune with my other brothers and sisters, and they not feeling this either. We just need one of us to speak up, turn the light on for everybody, and we all on one accord. That is a universal language. And that language cannot be confounded. But the verbal language, big shout out, Black Self-Defense Coalition. Those languages are easily confounded by man, but the language of the soul, the language of the melanin, the language of our ancestors, the language of the original, the language of the tribes, the language of the Most High cannot be confounded by man. Y'all deceive yourselves sometimes. And it's laughable at most. It then go on to say, rule passion, faith, tradition, in all things with tempered reason. In other words, you've heard the saying, be slow to anger and quick to respond. You've heard that. I'm on my morning mental this morning. I'm on the morning mental, in case you don't know. And if you've never sat through a morning mental, don't listen to a piece of it and think you got the whole lesson. Our classes are not that simple. We are the learned of the children. So be slow to anger. But when you respond decisively. Temper everything with reason. That means critically think through everything. Even as a race, we should be critically thinking our way through certain things. We don't. We jump to the first conclusion and we stay there. That's what we do with our hands in the air. Let's stop that. Protect people and nations with fair laws and with just courts. Isn't that one of the things I said that as an ethno nation we'd have to ensure? Can you imagine our own justice system with all of these crooked laws and all of these little loopholes and all this legalese designed to keep you in bondage? How about let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court? In other words, you mind your business, I'm gonna mind mine. But if we have a beef, there's a world court for us to take it to. We ain't got to take it to war. We can take it to the world court. Matter of fact, the world court is open right now. That's why we're preparing papers of liberation. Don't worry, black folks. You're going to get helped one way or the other. I'm just going to be amazed at the black folks that would sit there. I don't want to be liberated. I just want to stay here with my... Y'all going to cry And people gonna look, people that you know, you gonna look at them and say, are you serious? We just got liberated, and your ass is standing here talking about, oh, I don't want to be liberated. I'm gonna stay right here. I ain't gonna say nothing. Y'all figure it out. It didn't take y'all long to figure this one out, did it? Avoid petty laws and useless officials. That's self-explanatory. Balance personal rights with social duties. Here's where I could stop and I could talk all day about this. They said, listen what they said. They said, balance personal rights with social duties. It is your right to defend yourself. It is your right to have a decent place to live. It is your right to be taken care of. These are rights, but we have to balance those against social duties. Your social duties mean you got to protect the neighborhood. You just can't live in the neighborhood. Your social duty is you got to be a blueprint to the up and young and the children. You can't just be around them because y'all hanging out. Your social duties are things that you have to do to maintain the quality of the community that we have. Yeah, you got the right to do a lot of stuff, but how does that affect the community? Do you care about how it affects the community? Look at here, you can open up a strip club right next to the church, but how does that affect the community? You understand what I'm saying? You can go down, matter of fact, you can let people move in and open stores throughout your whole community, and don't none of y'all own a store, don't none of y'all own a business, all y'all work for somebody else somewhere else, and you spend all your money at that store. Think about how that affects the community. You got to have some duties to the community before you start talking about, it's my property, I can sell it if I want to. But to sell it to somebody who's not a member of your community, why would you do that? Knowing that they don't give a damn about your community, you have no sense of moral responsibilities or social duties. You have to think like that, folks. You can't just think about yourself when you're talking about your community. If that's the case, pack up all your stuff, move to a mountain somewhere all by your lonesome, and do you. But don't sit around other people of your kind where your actions affect their society, you have a moral duty. It's your social duty. Number 9 is prize truth, prize beauty, prize love, seeking harmony with the infinite. That's what we're doing right now. My favorite one is the last one. Most of y'all get caught up on the first one, which is 500, maintain humanity at 500 million. Mine is the problem that we have right now. It says, be not a cancer on this earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Says it twice. Do not be a cancer on this earth. What does he mean by a cancer? What he means is, don't go around destroying this earth as if it's your own private playground, your own private toilet. Don't do that. Don't destroy the animals that you did not create. Don't pollute the waters that you can't replenish. Don't cloud the air and hide the sun, which is essential for the earth. Don't let everywhere you go, you rape, rob, and pillage. Don't be that person. If you do, you become a cancer on the earth. And if we look around us today, wonder who fits that bill. Who has become a cancer on the earth? And if they are the cancer, what is the cure? I'm on my morning mental right now. Y'all forgive me if I slip into my supervillain mode, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That whoever made the Georgia Guidestones was smart enough to know that when we come back around this time, we're going to have some rules in place. Because we've been through this again and we can't keep repeating this. That also means that whatever this cataclysm is that they're preparing for is so devastating that only a small handful from around the world will survive. The question is, are you one of those people? Are you really prepared for a disaster of that nature? Or would you do like some people say, you know what, if my peoples ain't going to survive, I don't want to survive either. Self-preservation is the first rule of being a human being. Knowing that you belong to Yah is your overriding. So I wanted to share those with you because I went down there to see these stones myself. And I'm going to tell you, the middle of nowhere. And when I mean the middle of nowhere, got off the main interstate, got on the secondary highway. Got off the secondary highway, got on the 2-lane road. Got off the 2-lane road, got on the 1-lane road. Fields and cornfields and nothing out there. And I'm thinking I'm here down in Georgia. Don't nobody know where I am. And then you turn this corner and voila, there it is in the middle of nowhere, all by its lonesome. But they got security lights up there and cameras in case people decide to come by and vandalize it. But there it is. And I wonder why they picked the hill that they put it on. See, it makes you wonder, did somebody time travel and come back and put that there as a warning? Or is it somebody who knows what's about to happen? I want to give you all those things to think about on the morning next. Now it's time for me to take my break. I'll be back in about 120 seconds on the morning mental. Grandmaster.